Hello, I'm Debbie Bell-Hosking for FinextraTV, and I'm talking to Tareq Muhmood of Visa, and our subject today is fraud protection. Tareq, so good to have you here.
It's great to be here, Debbie.
Lots to discuss because this is an important conversation, fraud protection. Let's start a little bit on a wider scale. What do you see as the emerging threats to businesses and their consumers? And also, of course, what is Visa doing? What's its approach?
It's a fascinating space, and I've been in the financial services industry for close to 30 years now. And I was reflecting earlier on in my career, I started in Hong Kong. The main type of fraud was actually check fraud or a voucher fraud in a branch, if you're old enough to remember those times. And many financial institutions didn't really have a dedicated fraud department. They had a risk department, but not really fraud the way we see it today. And at that time, back in the early 90s, I was looking this up. There was about $800 million worth of fraud globally in any given year in the early 90s. Now, if you fast forward to today, where commerce has changed significantly, the way we shop, I went coffee shopping last night online, and you look at the form of different payment forms that have taken off, from historically you'd pay by check or cash, and now you have so many ways of paying or being paid. And fraud has been part of that journey. So now fraud has gone from 800 million in the early 90s to about $33 billion worth of fraud in 2023, according to different news sources. So it's clearly, there's new tools, technology tools that have enabled some of that, some bad actors in the system that really make use of those tools to really target, vulnerable people or businesses. For Visa, we've been in the payments industry for over, close to 65 years now. And we've put in a huge amount of technology and investment to really focus to make sure that anyone that's paying with a Visa capability or receiving through a Visa acceptance form, that payment experience is secure and seamless as possible. So we've invested a lot in that technology. But what we recognize in speaking to our clients is that they really value that, but they also want to use the same technology to help reduce fraud in other payment forms as well. So we're putting a lot of energy around not only focusing on the Visa payments, but on the broader payments ecosystem to try and reduce fraud and provide better payments experiences.
And there is a big ecosystem. And I'd never expected to be taken back to the day of the check today. I don't think my 14-year-old son, I think he's probably handled one check in his lifetime.
Yes.
So you're talking about digital payments. So what would you say are the key features that a modern fraud protection solution ought to have?
So I would kind of evolve the question to not only fraud prevention, but fraud optimization. Because there are plenty of tools that a lot of financial institutions can now use to prevent fraud. But the risk of also putting those tools in a very crude manner is you actually stop the amazing payment experiences that should happen for good payment experiences as well. So you could be going shopping on a trip if you travel to the US or to Paris, and your card does not work because the bank has put so many fraud protection measures in that even good customers can't have a good experience. So it's about fraud management rather than only prevention, and optimizing your fraud rules and fraud capabilities to allow good people to continue to have great payment experiences, but also using AI and other technology to prevent those bad payment experiences as well. So we really look at it through those lenses. And we have a phenomenal group of risk optimization, fraud optimization experts sitting around the world that really just do that. They work with key merchants, they work with key banks to really help them optimize their fraud capabilities to allow for those good payments experiences to continue while preventing the bad actors.
And that's so important to have that, isn't it? The optimization and the protection, because everyone wants a good experience, don't they?
That's right. That's right. And I've seen it firsthand as you travel around the world, especially for holidays. It's such an important time with family. You do not want to be in a hotel or in a restaurant and your transaction is not approved. You do not want that to happen to you, despite the good intent by your bank to try and prevent a fraud. But what you don't want to do is have a bad actor somehow accessing your payment credentials in any way, and also then allowing some fraudulent transactions to take place. So really having that understanding is really important.
And that's a big discussion. And talking about discussions, you had the Visa Payments Forum recently in Paris. A2As, right? A2A payments, a big topic there. Can you summarize for us just a few of your takeaways, and also within that, the implications for fraud protection, or should we say optimization as well?
Fraud management. So I think there's, we have these fantastic industry events around the world, and we did one in Asia Pacific a few months ago, one in North America, and now in Europe quite recently. And they're fantastic ways of bringing different parts of the ecosystem together, whether it's technology enablers, or whether it's the banks, or some of the key merchants that accept and accept payments as well. And one of the feedback we get from the industry is, again, Visa, you've done a phenomenal job in securing the Visa payment volumes, but we have other challenges now, especially on A2A payments, which are growing rapidly around the world, displacing cash largely. But as a result of those A2A payments, we're also seeing a lot of fraud, either people with fake phone SIM numbers that are registering easy sort of onboarding in some channel. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you try and make a payment through your bank now, there's so many warnings that pop up before you hit the enter button to say, yes, please pay my mother, £400 or whatever it is, that warn you that, are you sure this is, who you're paying is real, etc. And so once you get through those hurdles, you can finally make the payment. So you can see there are real pain points in the industry. From what I've read, in the UK alone, there's almost £500 million worth of fraud losses last year on the A2A payment thing. So the industry has been telling us, please, can you help focus on improving this payments experience? And we've run a pilot quite recently using data from A2A and putting them through the Visa AI algorithms. And we were able to detect a 50% increase. We were able to identify more fraudulent transactions than anyone else could. By putting them through our own algorithms and AI logic. And so we found that using our own technology to expanding its use case, we're able to have a positive impact on the payment experiences.
When you're talking algorithms, AI, pilots, that's all looking ahead and almost future-proofing in a sense.
Yes.
So going back to the Visa Payments Forum, what would you say were the key takeaways when we're looking ahead, particularly for financial institutions, because there is that balance, which you've touched on, between security, innovation, and also your changing consumer and what they demand?
Yeah, so we're seeing, you've highlighted a great point. Consumers are really demanding great payment experiences. It's almost seamless. You want to be able to go online without having to enter your credentials, or you want to be able to log in. I want to be able to pay my mother without having these kind of pop-up warnings non-stop. But I want to also know that my payments are secure. So it's got to be seamless to the consumers and to the businesses. But behind that, you need great technology stack to future-proof those payments. And what we're finding in the A2A space is very localized. What's happening in the UK is different to what we're seeing in other parts of the world. But there's a lot of underlying similarities as well. But we've got to make sure that we adapt to each ecosystem.
So what do you think the financial institutions should be focusing on in this regard?
They have to engage. They have to engage. And what we're finding with those financial institutions that are engaging, they're seeing real reduction in their fraud rates, which then gives them confidence to allow those good payment experiences to happen more seamlessly. What we're finding is that if you try and build these tools yourself, the time to market just takes so much longer. So a partnership approach, whether it's with Visa or other credible players, that's really the way to go to make sure your time to market's a lot faster and you have that learning journey going.
Partnerships to help future-proof and faster.
Correct. And we have elements within Visa of being able to just give advice on that to our clients. Here's how you can tweak some of your approaches. And we have capabilities that allow us to really play a role in defining the strategy for this space overall as well.
You know, Tareq, I wish we had more time because there is so much more we could chat about. And thank you for joining us in this conversation.
Thank you, Debbie. It's great to be here.